Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to RVdaydream. I'm not sure when you're going to see this, but we have a product that was sent to us, and it is something that I've been waiting for a while, and I want to cover it as soon as possible. And whenever we're finally told we can release this information to you, I'm going to talk about it even more because I think it's something that helps with the trailer overall. So let me tell you what that is.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream.
So if this is your first time joining us, welcome to our channel. I'm Mike, my wife Heidi, and we're full-time RVers. Now right now, currently, as we're shooting this, it is the end of September. We're still in our driveway. Our house is for sale, and we've been living in our RV in our driveway for about the last 2 months, 2.5 months. Traffic noise, I'm not going to miss that. One of the reasons that we're shooting this video now is because there's an early launch for a product. I should say kind of an early scene or an early look at a product that's going to be put out for everybody coming up in the October-November range, and that's probably when you're watching this video. So what we've got here behind us is a 2020 Rockwood, and one of the things that anybody that has an RV is concerned with is movement. As far as being in this thing full time, you know, you feel everything. It does a pretty good job overall from the factory, but there's a couple of things that I've done to help with the movement as far as the RV, and one of the things that I don't like is going to be cured most likely by this product. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So in the shadows, the early morning shadows here, we've got a typical travel trailer setup. However, I noticed that if I did a wheel chalk setup like this, which, ignore the bungee cord, that's there for something else. This is basically a homemade, which I did a video in the past about this, DIY wheel chalk setup. And what I noticed is if I could lock in both of those tires from moving, I didn't get any movement this way. If I had wheel chocks that were underneath, they usually held pretty well, but if I rocked it hard enough, it would rock itself up off of the wheel chalk. Unless you really hammer the wheel chocks in underneath the wheels, it would allow this to move. So this really does lock in both tires from moving. So you don't have this forward, back and forth motion so much, and that did sturdy things up quite a bit. But the other problem that we were experiencing as far as movement was with the power stabilizers. Now these power stabilizers, pretty common on a lot of these whenever you do option these in. This is a Lippert component, and as far as the foot pad itself, you can see it's made of metal. So having that metal pad, and you can see how small it is, contacting whatever it is that you're going to be up against, and like in our case in our driveway here, we have this slag gravel, this number 57 slag. It just moves around or it digs itself in. So we've always carried around these wood blocks. Again, something that I put together. They make all kinds of plastic pads and stuff you can throw down, but you can get the idea that we have to put these pads out every single time. Not only that, but they still don't necessarily make it to where the feet don't slide around on that wood block. Even though these look pretty standard and you're looking at them saying, oh yeah, that's the same one I got, I need to order that same one he's using, don't. Because these steel pads that are on the ground, or in this case on this wooden block, have variances, and they vary from trailer to trailer. So let's go ahead and measure this one, and this is what I'm going to show you how to do, and we'll go from there. All right, so what I did here was I lifted the pad up off of the block, and a lot of you don't know, or maybe you should know, the pad itself, it should swivel freely. This is normal. It shouldn't be stiff. It shouldn't hold position. It should move. And the reason is, completely side note of what we're doing here, is if this thing gets stuck in a weird position like this, you know, maybe you're on a weird hill, or you're on a route and it slides off and it's kind of crooked and you just kind of push it down in the ground, or maybe some dirt gets in here. If it's in this kind of position and you try to put it up, and this is locked pretty solid, once it hits the motor up top there, or the mechanism, that's bad news. So these should move pretty freely. The good news is whenever you're installing these pads, it makes it a lot easier to measure because you don't have to put your head underneath. You can actually do it from up top. So in my case, what I'm going to do is pay attention to a couple things. One of them, you can see how these things are kind of lipped up. You see how they have a little valley that is built in when they stamped it. That's for strength. That's also for some skid control. In case this does slide, it doesn't catch an edge of this plate and cause damage. So it's kind of like a little ski. But these lips, this is one of the things that's kind of a variable. We're not exactly sure 100% on how it was stamped and how big this lip may be, or they'd all be standard. So in this case, what you're going to do is measure from the edge of that lip to the other edge. And again, this is going to be something that's relatively difficult because sometimes your tape measures, these are probably the best tape measures to use for the reason that the hook part, this tab, puts it on that edge. It's the same lip size. I don't know if I can describe that, but basically this tape measure, if you push it up against the bottom, it goes right up against the lip, the edge of the lip, so you get a true measurement. So after you hook that, and make sure you don't bend it, then you're coming out here and you're going to measure it here also. Now in my case, I'm at 5 5/8 of an inch. I know that's kind of hard to see, but yeah, 5 5/8. It's actually slightly over that, but just by about a 1/16 of an inch. So we'll go with 5 5/8 to make it simple, and that's what I had told SnapPad as far as my dimension. Again, you're going to want to take the time and get this measurement right. It's a square, so it's the same measurement up and down as it is across, but you have to make sure that you get it as close as possible so they can send you the correct thing the first time. If not, there's going to be a lot of shipping back and forth, and that doesn't do anybody any favors. This is what the box looks like that it will come in, at least in our case, and this is for a set of 4. So what you're going to want to do whenever you get the box, again, is double check your numbers, double check what they sent you matches what you requested. Like in our case, this is going to be what they call a square 5. It's just a 5-inch square. The box is a little heavy, but this is a pre-production model. This is something that they're trying to get out there and have tested out on travel trailers, because they haven't been doing a square pad for travel trailers. So I'm very happy to see this. What you want to look at is a couple of things. See how these things have lips that are kind of built, or grooves that are built in underneath here. I don't know how well that's coming out on camera, but these grooves is where that lip that I was just talking about, that ski design that's in the stamp of the metal, that's where it's supposed to snap in. That's where it's supposed to actually be driven into by the pressure of the RV and snap into place. Now, to aid in that snapping motion, what we're going to do is go ahead and lubricate this edge. A lot of people use dish soap. That's just fine, because what happens is you don't want to use a lubricant, first of all, that will deteriorate rubber, even though this is a material that's resistant to a lot of chemicals. Dish soap is very harmless. Of course, we know we can get it on our hands, no problem there. And there is kind of an oil to these already. However, dish soap, the best part about it is once it's on there, you can rinse it, you can let it dry, you can just leave it alone, and it will go away. It'll quit being slippery after a period of time. If you put some sort of a lubricant like a grease on here, well, of course the grease is just going to stay on there, so it's always going to have the chance to peel off just as easily as it went on, because it's lubricated. So definitely use a lubricant that disappears. I'm going to add a bit of a twist to the installation process. I was thinking about cleaning off this pad a little bit, just to make sure that it's a clean install and I don't have dirt or rocks or mud or anything trapped in between the new SnapPad and the metal pad that's on here already, and realizing that the cleaning agent that I'm going to use, which is nothing more than just window cleaner, just plain old window cleaner spray, is probably a pretty good lubricant to allow this thing to slip on. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this off, and I'm going to actually use the window cleaner to help get this thing on. Like I said, as long as I'm cleaning this, might as well allow the same solution that I'm going to use to clean it to become the lubricant, because again, the window cleaner, once it evaporates, once it disappears, that's it. What we're going to do is just position this as close as we can to the jack, and again, I'm going to use window cleaner. Just put a little window cleaner on here. All this will disappear. Window cleaner will not stay. It'll evaporate. I mean, if you don't trust me, you can try it yourself. Yeah, let's just go ahead and make sure that's all along there. Yeah, pretty good. Let me go ahead and rotate this around. That way I make sure I got enough on this one here. You don't need a lot. Like I said, the block already has sort of an oil to it, some sort of protectant, but you do need to lubricate it to make sure that it goes down in there. Now that you have the block positioned, what you're going to do, if you have somebody else helping you, is get to your leveling button. If you have power, if not, you're going to have somebody crank them down and do it that way. Now in my case, I can reach the power leveler from right here, so we'll go ahead and put this down. And looks like it's a pretty darn good fit. You know, keep your fingers out of the way. You can see it kind of snaps in place. Now I have self-leveling power jacks, so once that side over there has contact with the board, it will equalize between the two. So you can see here it's still not all fully engaged. It's close, but it's not quite there. So we're going to go ahead and help it out a little bit and do it again. So we'll go ahead and do this a few times to make sure we get it where it needs to be. It's close, but not quite. And the reason is because we've got an unlevel situation here to where one side is a little bit higher than the other. Basically the front there, it's pretty much engaged in the pad, but the back is not. So I'm going to build up the back of this wood with the gravel in this case to make this side now engage sooner than the other sides. So let's go ahead and try that now. And I think you're going to see that it's fully engaged now all the way around. Let's go ahead and take a good peek at it. Yes, yeah, it looks really good there. So let me move this board out of the way so you guys can get a better look. And yeah, it looks really good. That's basically it right there. And that was all it takes for the installation. I mean, it's not a big deal. Like I said, this window cleaner will evaporate, and it'll be on there for a long time unless you have to take it off. But once you take them off, it voids the warranty, so you don't want to do that. Again, now the nice thing about having these pads is if we get to a location and we're just staying for the night and we don't want to get out those wood blocks, but we do want to make it to where the RV doesn't bounce around. Let's see what we can do here. Is that not awesome? That is really cool. That is very, very cool. So no more wooden blocks? I don't think that that's going to be the case, I'm still going to carry those along, again, just in case we get in situations where really muddy, really, you know, nasty conditions. I still would like to have them, but it's nice to know that if we just pull into a parking lot for the night, we can throw these things down and not have to worry about the metal to ground contact or having a smaller footprint and having a pretty good lockdown. So you know what the deal is. The link is going to be down below for these, or there's going to be a link in the description. Go ahead and click that link. It'll take you to the website or to the product. And again, you have to do those measurements. Don't short yourself. Don't cause a problem and make it harder on everyone just because you don't take the time to measure. Like I said, in our case, we had 5 5/8 was what it was from the edge of the lip to the edge of the lip, and the pad went on just fine. Snapped on there, and we're in good shape for many, many years, hopefully. I appreciate it, guys, and as always, we hope to see you out there. Bye.